Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. I'd like to begin first and foremost by saying Barakatah, Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and salutations to the sincere Akim that puts this truth and all due diligence and sincerity. Psalms 44, verse 1 to the chief musician for the sons of Korah, Mashil. We have heard with our ears, O Yahawah. Our fathers have told us what work thou didst in their days, in the times of old. Man, we read it in the scriptures day in, day out, how the Lord walked with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how he delivered the Hamites into the hand of Joshua, and ultimately was with him all his days. How King David, you know, was the man after the Most High's heart, where he wrought havoc upon the heathen. Then after him, as a result of all of the blood that he shed of the heathen round about us, King Solomon, his son, had 40 years of peace. We know the stories of Moses, even though, Moses fell short and didn't actually make it into the promised land. We know how the Lord walked with him. We know how the Lord dealt with Gideon and Barak and Mordecai and Esther and all of these different ancient men of old, even Samson, despite the fact that he gave up his secrets onto Delilah. And we know what it was like when the Lord delivered the Hamites into Joshua in battle and held the sun up for a full day, when the Lord was really, really, really close to Israel, man. How thou didst drive out the heathen with thine hand, and plantest them, how thou did afflict the people and cast them out. Those Canaanites were in our land practicing the most odious works of witchcraft, and then the Lord literally drove them out the land and delivered it onto Israel, man. First and foremost, the our forefathers back then, and ultimately it's going to go back to our people via the 144,000 first and foremost. For they got not the land in possession by their own sword, neither did their arm save them, but thy right hand and thine arm and the light of thy countenance, because thou hadst a favor unto them. Because ultimately the Lord chose us to be his special people, not because we were the greatest, but because he would keep his promise that he gave unto our forefathers. Deuteronomy 7 and 6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord Yahawah thy God. The Lord Yahawah thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto him, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. That's racism right there. That's the Lord selecting a particular race of people. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. So we were the smallest nation at one point. But because the Lord Yahweh loved you, and because he would keep the oath, the promise, through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the chosen line, which he had sworn unto your fathers, have the Lord Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Look at that. Look at that. Know therefore that the Lord Yahweh thy God, he is God, he the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, man. Ultimately for eternity, because the Lord is not going to do away with Israel, man. It's in the scriptures. He even sent Yahawah specifically to die for Israel, and he died ultimately for the elect, man. Psalms 44 and again verse 3. For they got not the land in possession by their own sword. Look at Jericho, for example, where the Lord said, walk around it 7 days. Like for the first 6 days, walk around it once, and then the seventh day with the Ark of the Covenant in front of you. Well, we had the Ark of the Covenant in front of us, or the Levitical priest every time, but the first 6 days was once a day, and on the seventh day we had to walk around the walls of Jericho 7 times, man. You can imagine people would have been getting tired. The heathen would have been looking at us like, what the hell are these crazy Israelites doing? And then out of nowhere, the Lord delivered that land into our hand, man. And the next thing you know, the walls fell. Only Rahab the harlot was spared because she hid the Israelite spies, and we took them by the sword, man. Look at that, man. Not by our own sword, but neither did our own arm save us, but the Lord Yahawah. And that's why it's important to fear the Most High Yahweh and keep all his commandments, man. This is the whole duty of man. In doing so, the Lord will bless you. And it's also written, cursed be he that trusteth in man and maketh flesh his arm, and forgetteth about Yahweh, and whose heart departed from Yahawah and Yahweh, roughly paraphrasing. Because the Lord is the one that's in control of the matters of life and death. In fact, another one of my favorite scriptures right here, Deuteronomy 32 and 39. See now that even I am He, and there is no God with me. The Lord Yahweh is the supreme power. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. And that's a fact. That's an absolute fact, man. The Lord's in control. The Lord is in control. Psalms 44 and 4. Thou art my king, O Yahawah. Command deliverances for Jacob, Baba Kashar. You read through the book of Judges, and the Lord allowed us to go into captivity under these heathen multiple times. But every time Jake would finally want to get right and call unto the Lord, what would he do? He would send a judge to deliver us, man. And ultimately, Yahawah is that greatest judge, and he's coming back to deliver us on this side, first and foremost with the elect, man, that are the ones righteously calling out unto him, repenting and begging for his deliverance, man. It says, through thee will we push down our enemies. Through thy name will we tread them under that rise up against us. That's Revelations, the second chapter, on about the 20th verse on down. The Lord is going to, ultimately, man, give us a rod of iron to bash these heathen over with. We're going to inherit the righteous rulership of kings, which involves servants, man. It involves slaves. When you hear slaves, I'm not talking about wickedness like what Esau Edom did unto us. Of course, we're gonna, exercise judgment on the heathen, especially Esau. But everything we're gonna do is gonna be in righteousness, man, and according to a fair measure, based on what they've done unto us. It says, though through thee will we push down our enemies, and our number one enemy is Esau, Edom, but ultimately it's all these nations. Through thy name will we tread them under that rise up against us. For I will not trust in my bow, neither shall my sword save me. Because ultimately, the matters of life and death are down to the Lord. How many times did the Lord prophesy unto men in the scriptures that they were going to die in battle, and no matter how much preparation they made, it still occurred? Look at Samuel and his. Sorry, look at the situation with Samuel, where through Samuel it was prophesied that Saul and his son were going to die in battle. Well, guess what, man? I'm not. I remember Saul. It was prophesied that Saul was gonna die in battle, and his son was actually a good friend of David's, but he still died with his father, man, at the hand of the Hamites. Now, could Saul have somehow upset the prophecy and known that he was gonna die, so taking extra precautions, wearing extra body armor? The Lord would have still made it happen, because guess what? The death angel of the Lord was given an instruction, and the death angels, man, followed the exact instructions from Yahawah, and ultimately the word of Yahawah is binding. We are the clay, man. We can't do anything but follow the instructions of the clay master, of the potter, I should say. Hence why we got to be grateful, first and foremost, that he lumped Yahawah lumped us onto a righteous lot of clay, as opposed to the wicked, the dross, you know. But thou hast saved us, verse 7, from our enemy, and have put them to shame that hated us. In Yahweh we boast all the day long, and praise thy name forever, Selah. But thou hast cast off and put us to shame, and goeth not forth with our armies. And that's the part of the judgment, verse 16 on down, that we're suffering at the minute. Thou makest us to turn back, from the enemy, and they which hate us spoil us from themselves. That's that Lamentations 4 and Lamentations 5. Well, Lamentations all over, man. Jacob fucked, and Jeremiah and Baruch were writing about the situation during the time of the Babylonians and that, before the transition into the Medo-Persian Empire, just around how fucked Jake were. And to this day, we're in a similar position. We're in the last height, the first fight. Jake are catching all sorts of diseases. We are on the lowest end possible of the socio-economic spectrum, because we are the people of the Lord cursed, man. I told the Lord Yahawah reverses these curses and liberates us, starting first and foremost with the elect. Thou makest us to turn back from the enemy, and they which hate us spoil us for themselves. To this day, thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen. Hence why the Apostle Paul was a minister unto the Israelite foreigners, also sometimes referred to as Gentiles in the New Testament. But these weren't heathens, these were Israelites that had lost their way, man. Were out there wearing togas, worshipping Greek gods, eating like the Greeks freaking off. But the Lord called the elect out of them back. You had situations like where Timothy's father, for example, was a Greek man, meaning that, not saying that he was a Edomite white boy, and even if he was a white boy, it's down to the spirit. But he's not saying he was an Edomite with no pigmentation, but ultimately he was down with the way of the Greeks. But his son Timothy was raised by his mother, and so to understand and follow the scriptures, and he found the scriptures through the apostle Paul. Yeah, man. Although we're reproached now, we're gonna be beautified eventually. That's when the truth that has been so long without fruit shall be declared. Thou makest us a reproach to our neighbours, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us. And people know that we are the people of the Lord. It's just that because in our cursed state, they don't want to acknowledge it. Thou makest us a byword among the heathen, nigger, blackie, all the rest of it, spick, native, a shaking of the head among the people. Are these the people of the Lord, these niggers, these Latinos? My confusion is continually before me, and the shame of my face hath covered me. We go through shame on a daily basis here, because we again are the last hired and first fired. For the voice of him that reproacheth and blasphemeth by reason of the enemy and avenger. All this has come upon us, yet have we not forgotten thee, neither have we dealt falsely in thy covenant. Ultimately, hey man, we've fallen short, but the Lord Yahawah Yahawah is going to deliver us, man. Because ultimately we are in a fucked up position and acknowledging it, unlike the 2/3 of our people. Psalms 44 and verse 23. Awake, why sleepest thou, O Yahweh? Arise, cast us not off forever. We're praying to the Lord every day, begging for him to destroy this place and ultimately to deliver us. And the Lord loves a humble and contrite spirit, man, calling out unto him, making it be known that we believe and depend on him. Wherefore hide this thou thy face and forget our affliction and our oppression. And of course, that's not the case, but brothers, suffering out here, for our souls bowed down to the dust, and our belly cleaveth unto the earth. Last hide, first fire, that's all I would say. Arise for our help and redeem us for thy mercy's sake, Yahawah, let it be fulfilled what is written within the scriptures. Ultimately, Isaiah 45, and that Israel shall be saved of everlasting salvation, a kingdom that needeth not to be ashamed nor afraid. Barakatah, Yahawah, Bashim, Yahawah, Bashim, Kwame, and Lord willing, we see each other on the other side. Shalom.